Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. I am Everardo Resendiz. People know me around here as Coach Ever. I am a certified executive and business coach at Action Coach in Northwest Louisiana. Today, I have Tim Keeley with the CEO of Martin Specialty Coatings as my guest. Today, we're going to be talking about the business, the journey to working with these businesses, the challenges, the best practices, and share a peek into what it really is like to build and operate a business. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop new ones just like this one. And so, Tim, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Alvarado.
Well, let's if you wouldn't mind, could you share a brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about Martin Specialty Coatings?
Sure. So my background is in the paint coatings industry. I worked in the corporate world for Sherwin-Williams Paint Company for about 20 years. Decided to take a few years off and raise my son. Came back into the private sector here locally with Martin Specialty Coatings almost exactly 6 years ago today. Um, Martin Specialty Coatings is a coatings and applicator firm that primarily services the Arklatex region. Our major clients include all the big healthcare facilities. We do work for all the big military installations in 3 states. We do a lot of school work. Um, I think one of the big keys of what helps us be successful is that we're constantly um, looking at new markets to enter and new services to provide for our clients. The Currently, at any given time, we probably have about 150 projects going on, and that would include uh, big projects, little projects. You know, we kind of do it all. We're doing buildings in downtown Shreveport that are 25 stories tall, and we're doing small facilities, retail facilities, and other things. Our long-term goal is to grow from what we call a local firm to a regional firm, and then to a national firm. And right now, we're kind of in that regional space, but constantly looking to add on more national clients.
Very good. And so, what does the current ownership of this business look like? I mean, this is a private company. Do you have a lot of partners? Is it like a public company? What is
So
it
it's
like?
a third generation, family owned private company. Basically, it's made up of partners. I'm kind of the only guy not named Martin in the whole leadership team, but it's a good place to be. So we, long term, that structure will probably change as we continue to evolve and grow. Our employees probably will become more and more involved with the ownership of the company long term. You know, having been in business for 77 years and now to the third generation, in order to keep sustaining that and growing that, you have to keep modifying the structure and bringing in new people and doing those things. And it's been real successful for us. We're currently in the third year of the third generation.
Wow. All right. And so, tell us a little bit about the role that you have in the business.
Yeah, so my role is to basically ensure that our people have the resources and means to accomplish whatever commitments we make to our clients. So from a broad-based, long-term structure, that's where I spend most of my time, focused on ensuring that we have a good plan, focused on ensuring that we have adequate access to capital, focusing on make sure that we have adequate access to human capital, not just financial means. Because in our business, it takes hands and eyes to basically do our work. So our guys are extremely good craftsmen. We, I tell them all the time, you're probably never going to be replaced by robots or manufacturing machines because there's just too many variables to really the finished work that we do, whether it's in a healthcare facility or a manufacturing plant or tank farm or whatever that is. There has to be hands and eyes involved with that process.
Right. You may have new technology that comes along and helps make that process faster, but you still need that analytic and evaluating mind going through it. So, okay. And so when you look at your role, Tim, how many hours do you spend a week in your business, basically doing the job, the day to day? And how many on the other part, the strategy, the planning, the capital finding?
Yeah. So um, to answer that question, you got to go back a few years. In 2020, February 2020, right about the time COVID hit, we had, as an organization, made a conscious decision to implement an EOS type application, redefine everything about our business, and to create a long term plan, 3, 5, 7, 10-year plan that would basically dictate how we were going to grow, where we were going to grow, where we needed to invest, what we needed to do, and then what was going to be the follow up structure to that over time. We spent about a year doing that, putting that plan in place. Now, if you fast forward 3 or 4 years, currently, what we do is we have a committee that we meet every 2 weeks, and we make sure that we're staying within that plan. So, from that standpoint, from a, a broad-based physical planning and oversight, I'm going to say I've spent about 4 hours a week from that perspective. That's with our team. Personally, I probably spend another 10 to 12 hours a week focused on that individually and with smaller subsets of those teams and pieces of that. My typical day is about 6:30 in the morning to around 5 o'clock in the evening. But that's just the way I've always been. Now, are there days that it's there's a lot packed into that day? Yes. But are there days where there's a lot of time set aside for um, review, analytics, analysis, just downtime, refresh, reinvest, thought? Yes, there's a lot packed in as well. So I'm a guy that lives off my calendar. I think I shared that with you guys. We're doing some other things, and I think that's what allows me to accomplish everything I want to accomplish during that time frame.
Wow. But that's an 11-hour day for you. Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
I usually kick off early on Friday. I don't work a lot in the evenings from home anymore, and
Good.
I most of the time, the only time I'll work on the weekends is if we're doing a really high profile specialty type project that I just want to be there to ensure that um, our guys have everything that they need and we're doing the right things. But that's kind of evolved, I would just say, since we were able to build those plans several years ago, because back then I probably was working a lot more weekends and a lot more from home. But once you get that roadmap in place and you really start working that plan, um, you know, there's things that you can pull back a little bit. There's things that once you get delegated and you have other people that you're comfortable with, all those things, your time management just starts working for you instead of against you.
Very good, Tim. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to what makes your business so special. And so, who primarily does Martin Special Code serve? If I were in the audience, how will I know I was a good fit for your services?
So basically, Mart Specialty Coatings serves the business public. We're a business to business organization. We don't do any residential applications. So if you're in healthcare facilities management or property management of large commercial type structures, if you're a general contractor who's building a new structure, if you're a manufacturing facility who has a need for outsourcing parts to be powder coated, if you're a fabricator, if you're the military in any capacity, those are the primary clients that we service. In addition to doing a lot of other stuff, potentially in the hard bid market from uh, from that perspective. So if it's business to business, then we want to be involved with it. I think we stay out of the residential markets because we do a lot of specialty items, and our mission isn't to make our phone rings. It's from everybody who has a leak of their roof, or has a wall that needs to be painted, but to actually protect people's assets, right? From a commercial perspective or an industrial perspective. Our core focus is straight corporate clients. So that's where we spend the bulk of our time and get the best return from that perspective.
All right. And so, what makes you unique? Why do people choose you instead of your competition, if there's any?
So we talk about this a lot, and our uniques are real simple. We have very large capabilities. So what I like to tell people is this: there's no project anywhere in the world that we can't mobilize on tomorrow. We wouldn't have to borrow no money, buy no equipment, or hire no people. We have those capabilities sitting right here in Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, once we get there, we might have to do all the three, right? So, but ultimately, we're prepared to service any situation at any time, and that is really an unfettered strength for our organization, especially dealing with these large corporate clients that say maybe have a facility that they need to get upgraded quickly that has a lot of issues. Well, whereas a lot of organizations, they would have to go to a general contractor. The general contractor would have to put a scope together, then would have to bid that out to multiple subs. Whereas we might drop 40 people in there on a Thursday, and all 40 of those people be part of different teams addressing different things for that complex. So large capabilities is really our number one unique. Okay. And it's really important to what we do. And it's one thing if you're in Dallas or in Houston or a major metro market, but to be in Shreveport and have those capabilities, it's really special. Um, the other side of that, and I talked a little bit about it, is our breadth of resources. So not just resources from, let's say, equipment, but when you talk about financial resources and human capital and all those things, that's another really big unique piece for a company like ours. Most of our competition is singular and focused. They only do maybe commercial, or they only do industrial, or they only do waterproofing, right? Well, we have 7 distinct divisions and we do all of those things. So our breadth of resources is plentiful, and we're very thankful for that. I mean, it's also by design, right? Um, and then the last thing really is that we just have a huge belief in our brand. Okay, so the name Martin means something in this market, especially to the clients that we serve every day, but also to the big new prospective clients that come into the marketplace, right? So these large general contractors like Skanska or Turner, who are ranked number 1 or 2 or 3 in the world, when they come into a market like this, we're their preferred contractor of choice. And the main reason is because of those other 2 things that I just mentioned, right? So
Right.
that's what really makes us unique. We pass the smell test the first time, no matter if you're the largest contractor in the world or a manufacturing plant or the largest corporation. And we just pass that, all of their requirements on day one.
Wow, that's pretty special. This is
Yes,
what we're
sir.
working on. Very good. And so, what's one thing you wish more people knew about your business?
Well, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there's just one thing. I think for us is I think if they just knew what our real business plan was, um, although we're growing very quickly. If more people knew more about what our long term goal was, I think it would even accelerate some of that growth even more, right? From a client perspective, right? So I think I could encapsulate it in just saying, um, I wish our market was better than our marketing plan, if you know what I mean. So does that make sense? Right?
That is very interesting.
it's
Yes.
but it's really kind of true, right? Like like most people think of Shreveport and they think, oh, there's nobody in that market that can come over and do this better than we can, right? And so, but we know that we can in whatever capacity that may be, right? So it's interesting, but I think that has a lot to do with it, and that has a lot to do with the story of who, what, why, where, and where you're going a little bit from that perspective. So maybe some of our messaging along the way. I, that's a tough question because I think within our region, like we're the marquee brand, right? We're the number one piece. But what we'd like to do is shout that from the rooftops so that you know everybody understood that, right? And so we're in
And,
a unique situation.
and when you mean everybody, I mean, the question here, I mean, and this is not part of the questionnaire, is just, me being curious. Um, so if more people knew about your vision, your plan, right, and what you're capable of doing, um, in this marketplace, right? Because yes, you are the people to go to when there's a need for coatings in the commercial world. Um, but you almost have to be in that industry to know about you.
That's right.
If I am not involved at all, right, in that, I may never hear about Martin, right?
That's right.
Are you saying that you would like everybody in the marketplace to know that this is there and the capabilities you have?
Yeah. So it kind of ties back to that growth strategy, right? And then from my perspective, like we just want people to know more about us because the real strength of our company is really our team. Like we're not just deep on one level. We're deep top to bottom and bottom to top. And so I think going back to your original question, what I think I'd like more people to know is to know more about our team and what our real capabilities there are with regards to our team, not necessarily to with regards to what we do, right?
Right,
So
right. Well, that leads me to marketing then, which is, something that, you know, every business out there considers vital and is often an area that people struggle with, right? So I'm always curious about what successful businesses are doing. Like, what's our approach to these? Who are we going after? How are we going to get after them? If you've been successful at growing your business within the industry that you're in, right, and people know about you there, um, what's the plan to go beyond that?
yeah, so I'll back up just a little bit. As part of that plan we put together in 2020, it included a complete revamp of our digital sphere and our marketing program. And so we revamped everything, who we were from a digital perspective, our website, how we communicated in that arena a little bit, how we wanted to target certain clients and other things like that. So we implemented a lot of tools in 21, 22. In early 24, we kind of went back, did a refresher with our partners, looked at some of those things. We also utilized some tools that came out of a system for integrated growth through LED as well. That was one of the things that we just wanted to validate a little bit, but then also, because that arena has changed and changes so quickly that we want to stay on top of that. So that's where we are. So we kind of for a long time we were really stable there, and then we changed our entire approach in 21, 22. We revisited in 23, 24, and actually just as last week we moved a marketing backup onto our rock board so that what we want to do is start specifically targeting some of those clients that I've mentioned from a national perspective. So it's a we build a good foundation there. How we go to market, why we go to market. Typically, what we're doing now is we're looking at targeted specific segments and targeted specific geographies to to put most of our resources into those. However, the next phase of that, and that's what we're prepared for, is again growing from that local, regional to national. The next phase of that is now how do we go after the national guys with that marketing program? So it's interesting you bring that up, because that was one of the things that just came back to our board last Friday. So that's really our next level approach. We've made some investment there, and we're really about to go after that next piece.
Very good, very good. And so, just a couple of basic questions. And again, understanding, this is a very mature company, right? That has had to redefine what their objectives are, right? And this is what I'm
Right.
understanding over the past 3 to 4 years, right? Um, so, do you have any idea, for example, top of mind, like what actually works marketing wise for you? Is it just the digital part, being present, or are you pursuing some active marketing?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. Um, from that perspective, one of the things that we did as part of that reorganization realignment is we actually um, put in place personnel to be responsible for both the sales and marketing side of our business. Prior to that, we pretty much did it from a project basis in individual type situations. So it was a fundamental change within the organization. And so we're continuing to grow that piece out. So now we've got some human resource capabilities with regards to the marketing effort, but we also have some digital partners that we're utilizing as a result of that. But ultimately, we have one person that sits on top of that silo. And so building that out has kind of been, what we're trying to do. Um, and then utilizing those things to just kind of bite off small chunks of geography, very targeted. Build a customer base within that region. Like I'll use Texarkana as an example, or Tyler, Texas, or Magnolia, Arkansas. So what we'll do is we'll go into that sphere, and we'll say, hey, we're specifically looking for this type of client in that marketplace. We'll start dropping a few digital bombs in there. We'll get some leads coming back to the group. The sales team will take over there, and then then we'll kind of replicate that at the next major city next to it. So, in a bigger perspective from that, I'll use East Texas as an example. Even though our office is basically only 10 miles from the Texas
Right.
line, we 4 years ago were doing ultimately zero business in East Texas. Today, our backlog pipeline that we have in East Texas right now is larger than the revenue the whole company had 4 years ago. So, and that was an investment in that marketing program. So the way we lead in with that is because we have a really strong local group of craftsmen. We'll say go to a Texarkana, and we'll look for an opportunity there, and then usually we'll service that opportunity from here. But then we'll start building that marketplace out with new projects and other things through our sales and marketing effort, and then we'll start hiring, teaching, and developing and training people local to that market. So Longview is a great example of that. Heck, uh, Central Louisiana is a great example of that, right? And so that's how we kind of put all of that together, and it works very well for us in both the short run and the long. Because once we're in those markets, we're not coming back out of it, because
Right.
we become part of the community basically.
You do. That's amazing. And so, how long did it take to coalesce for you? That
Well,
you have a
so
very clear strategy.
yeah, so again, um, we spent a year building out that plan, and so, but once we built out that plan, we had a very clear roadmap for how we wanted to go about those things, and everybody in the company understood why we were doing certain things as part of that, and then we've reinforced that over time, continuing through today, and it'll be part of our culture forever. As to, hey, here's how this model really worked well and why it really worked well. And so then replicating that is really simple from that perspective. But it also I think for us, you talked a little bit about the culture. It created some ownership for people within those areas of responsibility or geographies or capabilities, or it was just, and so once they get that confidence, hey, that worked really well, then it's like, well, it's just another town, or it's just another, you know, client, or it's really simple, right? And so people get on me, they call it dime store arithmetic. Like I can replicate stuff very well, if you know what I mean. Once we have
Yeah.
that, once you get that ball rolling, it just grows, grows,
Right.
grows, grows, grows. So that's really become our culture over the last few years is, hey, look, we once those models get in place and start working, then it's just making sure that we just keep the ball rolling and moving forward there.
Repeating what works, figuring out what works,
That's
and
right.
then repeating it as much as we can. Sounds
That's
like a
right.
good formula to me, right?
That's work.
All right. So we spent a bunch of time focused on the business and sharing some of these parts of how to develop that. But I'd love to take a step back and dive into your journey a little bit more. And so you became CEO of this company. How do we get there?
Well, so the company was owned by three brothers, and all of them were in their mid 60s, and they were looking for a controller to come in and help them with developing an exit strategy and doing some other things, um, and then figuring out what that plan looked like, going forward. And truthfully, I never really expected to stay here much past that process because my background, I used to do acquisitions. I love consulting. I, I kind of am one of those guys that I like to move on to the next big thing and invest in the strategy and the vision and everything. Well, what I found out very quickly is that this was probably the best opportunity for me because we didn't have any boundaries. So that uh, I'm able to fulfill that need and desire right here because we're trying to build the mountain or climb the mountain or whatever you want to look at. So that process keeps me engaged all the time. So what we did is we went from basically three partners who were all about the same age to developing a corporate culture and organizational chart of a CEO, COO, vice president of sales and marketing, and then a group of project managers, admin teams, and all that. We completely redefined the company side of it, kind of back to like that corporate culture that I came out of. And so it was just a natural progression for me. When I did acquisitions for Sherwin-Williams in the later stages of my career with them, our job was to go in, integrate the company, figure out what was good, what wasn't so good, figure out then how to expedite and move that forward. And so we have that same process and opportunities here. And so, and that's really where I like to spend my time, figuring out, okay, hey, we did great in this segment. We're growing really well here. What do we got to do 5 years from now? And how do we do that? What technology do we got to invest in to ensure that we can improve productivity and keep that leverage advantage from our competition and all those things? And so it was just a natural fit for me. And the other thing is we set the company up really well long term because I'm in my mid 50s. Our CEO's in his mid 40s. Our vice president of sales and marketing is in his 30s. And then we hired a whole bunch of college grads to come in as project managers and pre-construction services. They're all engineers, and so we really built a strong company both vertically and horizontally from that perspective.
Very cool. And so in this latest stage of your career, right? Taking over this organization, working with the team, what has been the most memorable roadblock or hurdle that you were challenged with, you were
Uh,
forced to overcome?
well, I'm not sure we've overcome it yet, but it's basically the existing ownership, right? Because they had done things for 40 years the same way. And so when you start changing everything and bringing in new technology and bringing in a whole slew of new people, and like the organization basically changes overnight, and they walk in and they don't know anybody in the building hardly, right? So it's that's been the number one challenge from that perspective is just evolving through that really getting to that full transition of leadership. And so, although it hasn't been difficult, it's just been constant.
It is, I mean, as a part of change, right?
Right.
The resistance isn't active, you know? It's there. It's uncomfortable, and it can create some turmoil.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, it doesn't necessarily mean that, people are against it. It's just that different is uncomfortable, right?
Right.
So
That's right.
very good. Um, Tim, I'd like to just kind of get an idea of the next 3 to 5 years. What does that look like? What's the future like for you? How do you plan on getting there? What process are we following as an organization to do that?
Yeah. So from a revenue perspective, like most of the heavy lifting is done. We built out the team. We've got a great pipeline of people, right? Which not a lot of companies can say today. Um, we have all the means and resources from a financial perspective. And so the next 3 to 5 years for us is a combination of organic growth, um, uh, aspiring to capture more and more national accounts, and then there's some inorganic growth that's going to come as part of that. We are looking at potentially entertaining some acquisitions and other things that different markets that are selective to what we do, and why we do them. And so our mission is basically this. Um, from a growth perspective, is we have a large capabilities, right? And so for us, we can go into a market, let's say like Little Rock, who has a specialty contractor there, and then and a good customer base and good craftsmen and a good team, and then basically bring those resources to them, right? So it makes a lot of sense from an acquisition standpoint and a synergy standpoint, from that perspective. We currently outgrow the market about 10 times a year. So our industry is a slow growth industry. It's usually low single digit growth, and we significantly outpace that. So we take market share. I should say we take profitable market share. And so being diversified affords us the opportunity to do that. But long term, it's now taking the team to that next level. Like we want to compete against the $100 million paint companies that are out there, and none of those are in Shreveport, Louisiana. They're in 10 markets: Dallas, Nashville, Houston, Phoenix. You know what I mean? I mean they've got
Yep.
multi offices and things like that. And our position is that we're we're just as good, if not better, than those companies. Um, from an untold secret perspective. So what our goal is to allow our clients to take us to those regions, not to have to go search in those regions, right? So we call them captive clients, national accounts, however you want to look at it, multiple opportunities with multiple divisions and segments. And so that's really where we're focusing a lot of our effort right now. So if you said, hey, where are you at? Well, we've made our 25s pretty much in the books. I mean, our 24 is pretty much in the books, even though we're only halfway home, just with what we got in our pipeline and everything else. 25 looks exceptionally well right now, just from what we've got sitting there. So, that's where our focus is. Our focus is right now is in the second half of 25 and 26. What do we got to do to invest today to ensure that we keep those opportunities coming? And that's what we're doing.
Wow. So the only question that I will have regarding this is, talking to you, I realize that you have a lot of clarity on what you do well, how you do it, how to reach out to these different options in your path, right? Um, how do you get your people enrolled in these? How do you transfer this clarity to them so everybody is working towards the same ends?
So that's what we do we call it our DFT meeting. So if OES type companies, they have type, continual improvement type meetings. Ours is every 2 weeks. And that's really where our whole team comes in. and we look at what are the rocks we have on the board, how are we doing from a progress standpoint, what issues are we having, where do we need to make changes, and other like in our meeting last Friday, um, we actually altered our core focus statement for the first time in 4 years. And it goes along with what we talked a little bit about. That's that next step, that national step, right? So that's all done as a unit. Every word, everything is all done as a group, and so that buy-in is done in those meetings. And then and what's really cool is again, you watch these folks walk out of there, and they know that, hey, look, um, I got 3 or 4 things that's on our 3-year plan. I probably should start putting some of that together now, because that's going to eventually hit the big board here pretty soon, and I'm going to be under the gun. So to watch these um, team members and people, because they just see success, right? So we don't necessarily talk about goals. We talk about rocks, because goals typically have a start and end date. Rocks become part of your foundation of your organization, right? And so that's kind of how we roll into that from that perspective. But that's where that clarity comes from. Again, because that program was built from the bottom up. It wasn't a top down type deal. We started with 6 people in those original traction meetings, and they've grown to 16 people in those meetings. So it's our entire team, and they're all part of that decision making process.
Love it.
I just facilitate, right?
There you
So
go.
yeah,
You become that instrument that resonates for everybody.
that's right.
Very good, very good. And so we have certainly covered a lot of ground in this conversation, and for those people who are watching, I highly encourage you to save these and maybe come back a few times for an additional watch. There's a lot of great nuggets out here. And so as we begin to wrap up, Tim, um, we have a few rapid fire questions we ask everybody. And so quick top of head answers for each. You ready?
Okay, I'll
What is
try.
the key to success for you?
Just do what I say I'm going to do. I, you know what? I'd say this all the time. I live off my calendar, and so I make commitments based off of that, and we accomplish those commitments. That's just for me. That's the key for my success.
Do what you say you're going to do.
That's right.
Very good. We call that integrity.
I
Having
agree with that.
integrity.
Yeah.
What is your one piece of advice for other business owners?
Well, plan, plan, plan. Because if you build a good plan, every time you encounter a situation or a roadblock or something that was unforeseen, you still have the basis of that plan to go back to. And then, if you have to change something on that plan, at least you have a foundational document that says, hey, this is what we believe truly is the key to our success. So um, plan, plan, plan. It's painful to plan, but it is important if you're going to successfully accomplish whatever you set out for your business.
Very good. What is one book that you're reading now or have read most recently that you would recommend?
So I just started reading Take Care of Your People. It's a book by Paul Sarvadi, I think is Paul Sarvadi. The enlightened, uh, the enlightened CEO success to business success, something like that.
I'll make sure to put it in the description of the video. I'll find it. Um, if you had to choose only one area of the organization you could immediately improve tomorrow, what would that be?
It's our marketing piece, 100%.
It's very common,
Yeah.
and again, it's not like you don't have clarity around it. It's the execution of it that normally eludes people. And so,
It, it was
before
the
we get
one,
into the
yeah. So it was the one thing that was new to the culture, right? It was completely new to the culture, and so we haven't got there yet, but we're getting there.
good,
We're like step 2 and 3. We just got to push it over the edge.
there you go. Before we get into the final question of the day, How can other people learn more about you or the company? How can they get in contact?
Yeah, so the best way is through our website, martinmisty.com. We have a lot of information out there. Listen, you can email me, call me. We're very accessible from that standpoint. When it comes to building business relationships, especially in a market that's, not a major metropolitan market, it's really important that us business owners share ideas and stick together and help others and whatever that is. And one thing about, I think, myself and even most of our team is we're just pretty brutally honest. I mean, we don't, there's not much to hide there, right? Like we all have a common goal to improve the quality of life in this market and for our people and all those things. And so we're really accessible.
Very good. And so I'm gonna ask last question.
All right.
You're it.
Yeah.
So what do you find is most inspiring for you today?
So I learned this a long time ago. It's not what you do, it's what others do that really inspires you personally, right? And so for me, when I see young people come into our organization and they have wins and they accomplish things, that's what inspires me. It really is. Across the board, I always wanted to be in sales, and then when I found out is when you went into management that basically management was selling 24/7. Like you had to sell every aspect of the business, right? So I get inspired by others, and when people succeed, that's what motivates me even more. And just because if it's just you, right, you can't maintain that just you off of what you do personally. But then if you got five people and they're all accomplishing something, it really jacks you up. But then when you grow that to 10 people and they're all, it just keeps taking you to that next level, and it's that's exactly my motivation on a daily basis.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tim, and sharing all this with us. It's a lot. It's not what we have been able to do. Talking to very mature companies like yours always has a different tint to it. Um, and thank you, the audience, for watching and sharing. And you never know who you might be inspiring by sending or sharing this interview.
Right.
There's great information here. So again, Tim, thank you, and make it a great day. Until next time.
Thank you.